Hello, hello, hello. Hooligan Soccer Podcast. This very fine Monday morning, coming at you with myself, Gary Stryker, and as always, my co-partner, co-host, the Qooligan.
So much Monday, Gary. It's hard. It's kind of hard to take.
Good morning, Qooligan. Yes, how are you? Oakland Roots shirt on. Do we have good Oakland Roots results this weekend, or was that not the case?
We always support the Oakland Roots, win or lose, Gary. We'll get into the USL in just a bit. Cool your jets.
Indeed, exciting. Well, that's it. So we've got a pretty stacked agenda today. We're going to go through the Champions League quarter final second leg that's coming up tomorrow. We're going to cover, obviously, just look at the Premier League as well. Obviously, it's kind of pretty sort of looks as though it's locked up at the top and the bottom end of the table. So it's all about fighting for the middle stuff. The third round of the US Open Cup is commencing as well tomorrow, which is exciting. And it's going to be televised or streamed, should I say. We're going to look back at the MLS. We've got a few picks as well. And then also just touch on the USL as well. So that is 5 competitions.
So much to talk about
around the world. So let's get into it. Okay, so Qooligan, we have a Champions League kicking off tomorrow. I think the first one that is going to be very interesting as well is you have Borussia Dortmund against Barcelona, and then the other game on Tuesday is Villa against Paris. So they're sort of breaking up the two sides of the brackets there. Is it me, or are these kind of games? Well, I think Borussia Dortmund don't stand a chance by the looks of it. I think they're absolutely out of it, 4-0 down. And, with that front three of Barcelona is just, as we mentioned before, is pretty devastating with that experience, prime, and youth. Anything to add to that?
Fuck.
Would be the more technical way of saying it. Yes.
Yeah, I mean, it's done. So cooked. Yeah. Turn it over.
Yeah. There have been some turnarounds of that caliber. The one that comes to mind is when Liverpool turned over Barcelona when they had a 3-0 lead, if you remember, when they had the Suarez, Messi, Neymar front three, and Liverpool came back, and I think they went on to win it that season. But I just don't see Dortmund turning over Barcelona here in any way.
No, and there was the remontada that occurred, which I believe Barcelona came back or
against PSG. Yes, you're
against
right.
PSG. Yeah. So there was that.
Mm-hmm.
But no disrespect to Borussia, they're neither one of those teams.
Yes,
and so I really don't think Barcelona yields their soft belly on this one, right? I mean, they may give up a goal or two, but they're gonna be calm, they're gonna be collected, and they're just gonna get the business done.
Yeah, I agree. So, well, it's nice knowing your Borussia Dortmund as well. Barcelona through to the semis, and then on the other side of the bracket, we've got Villa against PSG. Villa hosting PSG this time at Villa Park. So the Parisians will travel north to Birmingham. 3-1 down. Look, PSG have really, really looked impressive. They've gone from, as we mentioned, being that sort of Galactico style sort of outfit to a real team, and with the likes of Dembele and I always trip up on his name, the Georgian winger with the short socks that we've mentioned before.
Just say Kvicha. Kvicha's fine.
Kavicha as well.
Kvicha,
and then and then I know and then Barcola as well looks pretty good as well, and then they've got some other kids as well. So I just compare that to Aston Villa, who are kind of just getting back up into the top flight and then sort of cobbling together a team using Asensio, obviously loaned from PSG. That'll be interesting to see him against his parent club, and then Rashford, and then obviously sort of even there, but coming back and turning that sort of 2-goal deficit down. That's going to be, it will be a remarkable feat. It's not impossible. Definitely sort of.
It's not impossible. Never, ever, ever rule out the Brummies. All right. I mean, it's just, and they're at home, and there's going to be a lot of emotion there. I think it's really going to come down to who gets the first goal. It is always the case in any game. Whoever scores first gets that. But in this particular game, if Villa can strike, and they can strike early, or they can frustrate PSG on their attack, and they can get a couple of stops and then snag a quick one on the counter, we might actually see, PSG is not quite as unassailable as some of these other clubs. I think there's a little bit more fragility to them. So there's also a lot of quality, mind you, but they are, of all the big clubs that are still in it, they, I think, are the one that has they're the least structurally sound. Let's put it that way, right? Where there are cracks that you can exploit if you're savvy enough. The question is, and I do think that Unai Emery is savvy enough to see them. The question is, does he have the right talent to be able to execute on that strategy? We'll wait and see. Could be a good game. I mean, I think that's going to be a much funner. I mean, seriously, do not waste your time watching the Barcelona-Dortmund game. Watch the Villa game. This is a much better game.
That will be a much more entertaining game. I think there'll definitely be a lot of goals, and it's hopefully it's one of those sort of special Champions League nights where it sort of gets to the last 20 minutes or so. It gets end-to-end soccer where it is just awesome. Sort of going toe to toe. That would be
absolutely
really
awesome
epic to see. Yeah. And then moving on to the Wednesday fixtures, we'll save the best till last. But Inter Bayern, this one is a very, very tight game. Inter obviously have the home advantage and the extra goal advantage here as well. However, Bayern are a sort of force to be reckoned with as well. So they could go to the San Siro and get the business done. They can, again, all it takes is 2 goals. I know that's a lot against an Italian team, but also Inter are flying high, top of the Serie A. They're looking very, very good as well. So this one, this is probably the hardest to call, to be perfectly honest, from my perspective. I don't know if you would agree with that, or you have any other thoughts there?
Oh, no, I absolutely agree. I think this is the toss-up, the 50-50, right? I mean, flip a coin, because really, I do think that everything will hinge on Harry Kane. I hate to say it, but Kane is going to be the deciding factor. If he has a good game, Bayern can win. If he does not, they will not win. And it really comes down to that. Not saying that Bayern is all Harry Kane. No, there's depth of talent on that as well. But ultimately, he's their main talismanic figure up front, and he's going to be that factor. And I think Inter knows it, and they're going to play him hard, real hard.
Yeah, they are. That's going to be a really close game.
There's an open bounty on Kane right now. Right?
Those Italians will mark him out of it. They will try and mark him out of the game and neutralize him as much as possible. But again, Bayern do have the potential and the capacity to score against them, but we know Inter are also a really, really tight defensive outfit as well.
They are.
So that will be probably the closest one. And then going over to probably the most exciting fixture of the whole game series, you and Anne Hathaway obviously sort of are going to be on the edge of your seats because Arsenal already done.
I'm going to be perfectly fair. I never root for Arsenal. All right. No, listen, nope. Can't do it. I can have a professional interest in Arsenal's outcome. I can have a general fan's interest in watching a good game, but I am not rooting for Arsenal in this one. I think that 3-0 gap will be sufficient for them. And I would be pleased for them, vaguely, to advance, but I won't be belting out any tunes. No.
Do you think they will do it, though? That's the question.
I do think that this is one of those occasions. We talked about previous upsets and big, and this one has the great potentials. We all know what Real is capable of. And Mbappe's red card that he got last weekend will not apply in this. And by the way, that's an absolute travesty. They only got a 1-game suspension. That's a joke.
Was that what it was? He got a 1 game for that?
Apparently, they only gave him a 1. They gave him a 1-game. He got a direct red, and they gave him a 1-game suspension. And I'm like, he literally tried to break that kid. He tried to break that person, and that can't be tolerated. I don't care how much money you make. I don't care how big of a status you are. You need to be punished for that. And he was not punished for that. And I would not be surprised if the officials are going to be paying extra special attention to him, because if he tries another stunt like that in this, that could actually yield some really swift retribution. I would not be shocked if the referees are said, hey, watch him, and especially the VAR guys.
Yeah. Do you think it's interesting how the idea, in theory, they should come into each game, obviously, with a blank slate, but there is definitely,
nobody goes into any game with a blank slate.
Yeah, there's
Gary,
reputation.
They don't do that.
Eyes on it. Yeah.
All referees study all the stats. They study all the game footage. They know the history behind what everybody's been doing. They know the trends that are going on. They have to. You can't go in unprepared. Now, they're not going in with a preconceived notion. but they are going in with the idea that we know that this happened. That's going to be in everybody's mind. It's not as if they can't go into it not knowing it, right? Yeah. They're not a sequestered jury. They have access to media. They can read.
And they follow it. They
follow it. So you know that it's there. And so, and I certainly don't want to imply that there's going to be any bias or prejudice against him. But he is in the spotlight. He's always in the spotlight, and he will be in the spotlight even more.
Yeah.
So he's going to have to be on best behavior.
And here we are talking about this, and sort of I agree. It's interesting how that sort of like sucked the attention and where the minds, where our conversation points are as well. It's not how are Real Madrid going to turn over this 3-0 deficit by coming out first, cutting an early goal, going at it. That's it. But yeah, it's Mbappe's behavior over the weekend.
But Real just has to Real, and really, it can be from anywhere. Right. It can come from any side, any angle. And so they just have to play. They have to not be distracted by that by that as well. They have to come out. They have to have a good strategy. And Solati will be on the sidelines, right? He was not on the sidelines at the last game. He was serving a ban as well. So, they got the full team there. Bring it. Yeah. Game on. Should be a good one.
Hopefully that will be an end-to-end sort of toe-to-toe.
And it could be one for the ages. Could be one for the ages if Real can have that upset, especially if it comes in dramatic fashion.
Yeah, I'm going to go out and stick my neck out and make a prediction here. I think it's going to be 3-1 to Real Madrid, and I think Arsenal just scrape through. They get a lucky counter-attacking goal and manage to sort of put one goal in, and it's just too much to go beyond. But that's
I'm not going to try and put a score on it, but I do think that Arsenal is going to be able to advance. I think a 3-0 lead is a big lead.
Big, yeah. It's a big lead. But as we know, Real Madrid have a certain history and sort of certain provenance with this tournament, and they are calm, and they certainly do go through with it. So yeah. Okay, cool. So potentially that advances then. So what we think we could be looking in the semis at Arsenal against a PSG semifinal, and then potentially a Barcelona against again, I think it's too close to call an Inter or a Bayern as well. But either way, you've got juggernauts, absolute sort of behemoths going up against each other, which will be an exciting.
I can tell you this: I think Barcelona would prefer to play Bayern.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
I think if Barcelona had a choice, they'd be like, "Yeah, give us Bayern. We'll take care of that. We'll take care of that business." Right? I think Inter's a much harder nut for them to crack.
Yeah, I agree. That defensive framework is just so strong. Wonderful. Okay. So we also had the end of game week 32 in the Premier League. Obviously, your beloved Palace. I mean, I was messaging you first thing in the morning. I was like, "What the hell is going on?" You were 2-0 up at one stage in the first 35 minutes, and yeah.
Listen, it's one of those things where, yeah, I mean, it's one of those. That's one of those games, Gary, where you come out so strong, and at the back of your mind, I mean, you're elated, and at the back of your mind, you're going, "Oh my God, this!" And listen, City hasn't had a game like that all season. All right, for City, this was an anomalous game. They have had good games, but they have not had a game where they just completely turned themselves around, picked themselves up by their belts, and said, "Right, let's get it done and bring an ass whooping on." And unfortunately, it had to happen against Palace.
That's
okay.
Yeah.
Whatever. It happens. It's good. We're still going to make Europe because we're going to, like I said, we're playing the long game. We let City do this. We let City do this because we know we're going to face them in the FA Cup final, and we're just going to, and then we're just going to go.
Yeah. Well, it's exciting. Yeah, that was
heard it here first, kids.
That was definitely sort of there was some optimism there as well. But I think you're right. And sort of from Palace's perspective, it wasn't we're going to beat Man City. It's we've just pissed them off and woken them up, and then they sort of turned it on.
That was kind of the deal. Yes.
Yeah, they did that. Any other picks for you for this past weekend? Any matches?
Are you not gonna give me credit? Who called Leicester Brighton? I mean, I didn't call a draw, but I did say that Leicester had it, and they did.
Well,
They
A
did
score,
sort
a
of.
score, a score draw is having it in your book. Is that what it is? A score draw. It's it's over. It's over for Leicester. Unfortunately, just
Well, no,
they're down
we
a
know
speed
that
like
it's
that.
over
Yeah,
for Leicester, but I do. I mean, I think the key thing here is they did get their first goal, right? They did get their first goal, and of course, they completely Leicestered the entire situation because both of Brighton's goals came off of penalties, right? And so, but they showed enough steel to come back. That's a good trend for them. Yes, they're going down. We know they're going down. They're not officially relegated yet, but it's not going to take. They play Liverpool next week. If they lose, they're out. If they draw, they're out.
yeah,
Pretty
they're
good
out.
likelihood that's going to happen.
They're out. Yeah,
So they're out. But
yeah.
at least they're going out with a little bit of,
Fight.
at
Yeah,
least
a
in
little
this
bit of grit.
particular respect, they finally broke that curse, that goalless streak that had been going on forever.
9 games or something like that, wasn't it?
Something.
A
It
lot
was
of games.
nearly
Yeah,
2
it was a
months.
lot. Yeah,
And
it's
that's
a
a
lot.
long time to go without getting. I mean, you could see it. You could see it in the body language and the facial expressions of the people who scored, and everybody around them were like, "Oh my God, thank you for finally getting this off our backs." Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. One of the other games as well that really fascinated me and I thought was beautiful to see was Everton Forest. Finally,
My
Everton
God.
getting a win, and obviously scoring in the 94th minute of sort of last minute of extra time as well.
Yeah.
On one hand, I was really happy for Everton because I think what Moyes has done, that bounce, how he's just got them turning around and got them moving up the table, has been incredible to see. I do all of a sudden worry for Nottingham Forest all of a sudden coming to the end of the season. Yeah, coming to the end of the season. There's a lot. It's very, very competitive in those top 7. There's going to be 2 losers out of that top, basically 3rd to 7th place, who are not going to get into the Champions League. And Forest all of a sudden, I mean, Villa, who are chasing them up as well, they're just 3 points behind them. It is very tight. You're going to need.
It is extremely tight. Yeah,
their form. They've lost their last 2 two Premier League games now as well. So, is this a case where the wheels are beginning to wobble and fall off, and can they just hold on there? And I really hope they do. I really, really hope they do.
Yeah, I think it would be great to see them. I'd love to see them in the Champions League. I mean, let's look at. I mean, let's study the facts here. Arsenal's pretty much a lock-in for at least one of those European spots, right? We know that.
Yeah.
Just given the fact that they got 6 points on Forest, but yeah, with Forest, yeah, you got 5 teams between 3rd and 7th at 57 to 54 points. It is essentially going to be an all-out sprint in the last 6 games of the season to see who can do it. And considering that we've got the title's already down, that's sealed in. The relegations were already done, that's sealed in. At least there's something for us to watch.
Yeah, some competition. Yeah,
there's something exciting.
Yeah.
So yeah. I don't. I mean, I'm not sure. But Forester stumbling. Newcastle's got a new. They're on a tear.
Yeah.
City. I'm not going to talk about what happened to City. They got one good game that might or might not be a trend. And would you like to discuss Chelsea, or is that something, or is it just too soon?
No, let's get it out. It's oh god, to go 2-0 down against Ipswich and just I was watching it obviously and I was just thinking, what the hell? They just look so out of ideas, out of motivation. There wasn't seem to be sort of any running, and Ipswich, as soon as they got the ball, they just looked dangerous. And it's one of these situations where they just hit them on the counter each time. They parked the bus and then hit them on the counter and got 2 good goals. They could have had more. Chelsea found it difficult to break them down. I think, look, it's really hard. Cole Palmer is definitely out of form. He is not going through a good run of form at the moment. I don't think that's, him sort of showing that he's not a good player. I think we've seen that he's world class. He's just having a bad run of form. You can see that. And yeah, they need a striker. They need a striker who can score a goal, and they need to probably get rid of Noni Madueke. I think his decision making is not great, and their goalkeeper as well is just terrific. The goalkeeper was just Sanchez is terrible. How you can spend 1.2 billion and not prioritize goalkeepers and strikers is quite fascinating. It really is. So yeah. That's what I have to say about Chelsea. Do you want to throw any more throw any more shit just across the fence, or is
I don't have to do that. If I was going to say anything, I would be heaping disdain on Ipswich, who once again can't seal a deal, right? And that's why you're going down.
Yeah, well, that's exactly it.
That's why you're going down, guys. Tractor Boys are dropping because they just can't finish the games out.
They can't, they keep conceding as well, right? And
you can't do that.
It's not good, yeah. So just in terms of looking then at that sort of like top 5 to get into the Champions League, as you say, obviously Liverpool, Arsenal are locked. You've got Forest, Newcastle, City, Chelsea, Villa. So essentially you're going to have 2 teams who are going to be left without a chair. Looking at the form, Villa have all of a sudden gone on a run, winning their last 4 games. Newcastle also having won their last 4 games. But just at that moment, you've got Forest who have lost, City who are finally beginning to sort of get a little bit of form. There could be a world in which it's sort of is Forest and Chelsea that miss out on those 2 spots, just judging on sort of basically current form at the moment. So that would be sort of what the stats would indicate.
Do you know who else just won their 4th game in a
row? Who?
Wolverhampton.
Wolves. Yeah, look at that. Oh, wow. Wolves.
First time ever in their Premier League history where they have had a run of 4 consecutive wins. Yeah.
Yeah. Wow.
And listen, we like to talk about Moyes and what he did at Everton, but really people should be looking at Wolverhampton because this was an incredible turnaround. They were really in the dumps for a long period. They were languishing in the bottom 3. There was a lot of serious talk about them, heading down to the championship. And what an incredible job they have done. And against some odds where they lost one of their main goal scorers, like Cunha was out for 4 games and a whole bunch of other things are going on. And yet, no, they have found a way as a team. They have found a way to put themselves into safety. Yeah, because they're fine. But they're not just content to be safe and then be like, great, cash it in. They're coming in and they're just unleashing on teams.
Getting at it, yeah.
And I will not give Tottenham any credit whatsoever. That was an abysmal performance.
It's Spurs. It's cruel. It's cruel.
Spursiness just took on a whole new depth. Ouch.
Yeah, it's interesting to see what will happen there because I think there's a real tension, isn't there, between sort of the fans who are pissed at the team's results and performance, not just this season, but if they started to sort of look back on a more sort of macro level and seeing that there's a trend here, which is they seem to get great players, they don't perform. They seem to get great managers, they don't perform. Yet those players and managers then go on to other clubs and perform. So there is a sort of a culture, a psychological sort of barrier, and there is that tension between does Daniel Levy get the sort of get the pressure, or is it Postecoglou? Again, I don't think it's Postecoglou. I think they probably need to have a change at the top. The difference is
no. I think Ange is just.
He's going to be done.
Well, no. I'm not talking about. But I don't think he's been effective. I'm sorry. I don't think he's been effective.
I agree with you. The results will say that. But what will be interesting is Daniel Levy will save his own ass and fire Postecoglou and go to get another big name manager. Postecoglou will then go and pick up another job somewhere else, and he will go and deliver and go and perform.
Probably.
That's what will probably happen. And again,
I can absolutely see that. That seems logical.
This cycle of Spurs will continue to happen where they'll just keep getting these big names in and they'll just underdeliver.
Well, didn't Spurs drop some big news about they hired a new director of football or something? They did hire a big name, and I think that's what Levy's trying to. He's like you say, he's doing a little hand motion, a little waving.
Yeah.
Look at this. Don't pay any attention to the man behind the curtain. Right.
Yeah, let's just look what's going on in front. Yeah, and so it's and again, look, he's a master at this as well. If you remember the way they got Mourinho got rid of. They were about to go into the League Cup, the Carabao Cup final. Jose Mourinho was the manager at the time, and he fired him before the match because again, there's finances. There would have been bonuses that have had to paid out as well. Again, Daniel Levy will not. He's doing a great job on a sort of business level. Tottenham are one of the best run clubs in the Premier League in terms of money spent. We were just looking at, I think I shared this with obviously the team internally as well, how there was that chart about the football agents' fees from the 2nd of February 2004 to the 3rd of February 2025. And Spurs are down there in the bottom third of money that they've spent on agents. Now, they've signed a few players as well. So, again, we know they could negotiate, but they run a very tight ship, and it is a business, and they are profitable, which is
well, that's
what
great,
is
but they're also at 15th.
Objective. Exactly. They're also at 15th and don't have a trophy, right? So,
great.
Yeah.
Yay, business.
Yeah. What would you rather have? Yeah, the sports business.
Yeah, as a fan, let me tell you, all I'm doing is looking at the business.
Yeah.
No, that's not good enough.
Tottenham spent 18 million. Just to put that into context, Manchester City spent 52, Chelsea 60, Man United 33. Right, so it just goes to show, right? It's they're down. Okay, so that's hating on Spurs. Obviously, Spurs fans, it's just it's the way it goes. Just the way it goes.
Spurs fans, it's everything's personal.
Okay, so moving on. So now we are obviously going back over to the other side of the pond, to this side, on the US side. We have the US Open third round. And for the first time ever, has a TV deal on Paramount Plus, CBS Sports, and will be streamed. So that will be interesting to sort of see how that production comes along as well. I
have mixed feelings about this, Gary, because I did love the atmosphere and camaraderie in many ways of being able to jump on YouTube to any game that I wanted. And it was essentially the same core group of people in there chatting. And it wasn't always the best chat, but it was definitely spicy and fun. That's going to be gone. And that's a bit of a shame, but at the same time, for the league and for the competition, this is probably a good thing. And in this round, third round, you have your 16 winners from the first two rounds. They whittled down from 64 to 16, and they're joined by the 16 top USL championship teams. So we've got a whole new crop of clubs coming in.
Talent as well.
Yeah.
Okay. And then just for context, when do the MLS teams, the ones that have opted to come in,
fourth
round they come in? Okay, got
Any
it.
of the 16 MLS teams that opted in out of the 30 pop in to the next round.
Okay.
Fourth round. Yes.
They'll come in at fourth. Okay, fantastic. Yeah. So in terms of looking at this, I'm just looking at the fixtures. I see your beloved Oakland Roots are playing against Tacoma Defiance.
Yeah. And I got to say, I'm very pleased. I was worried that we were going to draw Farolito, and we did not. Yes. Only because I watched the game last year, and Farolito are not to be dismissed. They might be, they might have a cute nickname. They might be all amateurs, but they ball, and they've got through. Yeah. They play. I mean, they completely dismantled a very, very strong Monterey Bay team. Monterey Bay are the top team in the USL, and they just swept them aside. Oh, no, excuse me. They didn't sweep them aside. They battled them down to the wire, and they pulled it out. It was a gritty performance, gutsy performance with some fantastic late minute goals.
There's nothing better than amateur, sort of semi-amateur cup football, cup soccer, right? Yeah. There's just so much more energy and spice to it.
And so I'm very pleased that Farolito ended up pulling Sacramento Republic, because the Republic are not looking good this year. They're a little wobbly. And I think Farolito is actually going to bring it to them. And I am hoping, I still have yet to figure it out, but I'm planning on being there if I can. So
okay, wow, you're going to get up to Sacramento to go and see the Burrito Boys. It's an
hour away.
So no, you should absolutely. That's fantastic. Yeah, no, you should absolutely.
And I will wear my Oakland Roots gear
in solidarity,
as I do for every game. Every game that Sac Republic plays, I always wear my Oakland Roots gear.
Have the Oakland Roots,
ironically enough, I was officiating games with Sac Republic games yesterday. Their youth academies. Their youth academies. Okay. I was officiating their games yesterday, not wearing my Roots gear.
Could we upgrade that T-shirt and get you an actual jersey from the actual sort of Oakland Roots? Do they have the ability? Do they sell the actual jersey?
Of course they do.
Game jerseys.
I just like, this is the old school. This is the original from the very first year that they played. All right.
Okay. Any other picks as well? Any other games as well that jump out to you that you'll be watching?
I mean, so many. There are two in particular that I like on the Tuesday. One is Loudoun versus Louisville. So Louisville is one of those like traditionally very strong clubs in the USL, but they have not played in 2 weeks, so they've had a bye. And Loudoun are, if it's not Monterey, it's Loudoun. Okay, Loudoun's top of the East, Monterey's top of the West. Loudoun from out of nowhere are very, very strong. So I think this is going to be a good one. Loudoun's on the road. I'm not sure who's going to win. The next one is this brand new club started in March called Portland Hearts of Pine. And Gary, I was in Washington, D.C. Last week, and I actually saw a fan wearing a Portland Hearts of Pine jersey. That made me think, okay, this is not just a new club. I mean, they're pulling in 3,000, 4,000 people a game, which is strong for a third division club.
Yeah.
They have been on a tear. They've not lost a game yet. And they're playing Rhode Island.
Yeah.
Who, again, haven't played in 2 weeks. So I think I smell an upset there. I really do smell an upset there. They've got a good squad.
The newcomers against, obviously since Rhode Island. Okay. Interesting.
I do think Oakland Roots can take the Defiance, particularly since they won last week, shockingly. Beat a far superior Tulsa team on paper, but they just outplayed them. And were able to do it. Looking at Wednesday, this one's fascinating. There's a lot of USL versus USL. There's not a lot in the way of giant killing that could be going on.
Yeah.
I do think Farolito has the best chance of, and they're truly a minnow. They're like they're the only amateur team left. Right.
So this is the only one. So really, as you say, as we are always generally pulling for the underdogs here as well. I think obviously we want the Barriso boys obviously to overcome there. So they are the lowest ranked team.
Absolutely, 100%.
Obviously in this as well. So there is a world correct. if they can pull a rabbit out of the hat, get the better of Sac Republic. They could have, in theory, an MLS team waiting for them in round 4 if they can get through.
They could.
Which would be magical.
El Farolito is SFSFL, right? So they're full amateur. You've got 2 MLS Next Pro teams, Tacoma Defiance and Columbus Crew. And I'm scanning through everything else. Nope, that's it. And then the rest of the underdogs are all USL 1.
Got it. Okay.
Chattanooga Red Wolves, one Knoxville
against Lights. Yeah.
Naples, Westchester SC. Again, here's another interesting one. Westchester SC, another brand new team in the USL 1. Have yet to lose a game. And they're going up against Detroit City, who had that insane win. I don't know how in the hell they beat Phoenix. They scored 3 goals in 5 minutes between 87 and 92. Just completely shock and awe the Phoenix squad. That should be an exciting one.
Beautiful. And we'll be able to see it all or stream it all on Paramount
and
Plus
we will.
And CBS Sports as well. That will be it will be good. What I like the idea is also as well is then the production value is going to go up as well. And obviously as there's more interest, again, this is what's good for the game as well, because there's more interest is where the narratives come out. We'll find star players that will start following and sort of cheering for as well. And so
although
stuff.
I mean I did like all that YouTube stuff where you could hear the crowds chattering and it was sometimes really not safe for work. Just very much letting it be known their opinions on the officials, and that's
the beautiful. That's the thing about the beautiful game, isn't it? It happens everywhere you go, right? It happens at all levels. As well, always the case.
But in the professional broadcast, they tune that out, man. They edit that out.
They are able to edit that out. Yes. Okay. All right. So that's bringing up the 3rd round of the US Open Cup. So we'll definitely be covering that. I know we'll have a bunch of articles and match reports and those kind of things up.
Yeah, I've got a bunch of preview stuff and a whole bunch of other things coming out. Yeah.
Exciting. And then, of course, moving over to the MLS. Obviously, we had it was game week 8, I believe, this weekend that just passed. So I was obviously I've got a number of picks. I think we have one one or two overlapping. So why don't you go? What games jumped out at you, and what was sort of the most interesting narrative and storylines here?
The one thing that jumped out at me, Gary, wasn't any one particular game in particular. It was the very, very low score lines in the majority of the games. So there were
Excluding
4 0-0 draws.
Yes.
No, sorry, 3 0-0 draws. And 4 1-0 wins. So the competition got tight, or the teams are tired. Maybe both, right? It's just, this is that one part of the season where if you've been playing all these games straight through and you haven't had a bye, it starts to wear on you. But that was one thing that really jumped out at me.
Interesting. Yes, that's fair.
But then in terms of games, that the one real shock was New England Revolution toppling Atlanta in Atlanta.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
I don't know what the hell happened there. I haven't seen the highlights on that yet, but that one jumped out at me. I was like, what? New England who? I mean, they have not been good.
Yeah.
And for them to beat a team like Atlanta at home, where that is such a vibrant and difficult atmosphere to play in, that shows something.
That definitely does.
The Timbers, the Portland Timbers just completely brought more pain upon Sporting Kansas City, who probably don't need any more pain, but they got it.
Yes,
they got it.
Timbers did that. I was following Austin. I was following the Vancouver Austin game, obviously, sort of Austin being my local team as well, and just to obviously sort of go and see Brian White just
right?
run a train through that Austin FC defense. It was pretty bad to see, but also it does obviously sort of indicate also Vancouver are looking they are very strong.
Out of nowhere, I will add. Out of nowhere. Nobody could have predicted Vancouver to have been this good. And that is must see soccer. Every game that they play.
They play well.
They brought it in the CONCACAF Champions Cup with some incredible last minute heroics, right? To pull that out. I would love to see them lift some kind of trophy somewhere. I mean, I just think it would be fantastic, right? Not just for the MLS, but also for Canadian soccer as well, right? It would be just great for them.
It will be wonderful. I mean, they were looking really good, and they really have a great chance. And as you say, what's interesting is that they're going to be going up against Miami, obviously, in the semifinals of the CONCACAF Champions Cup, right? I'm correct in thinking that. So again, you have a sort of a clashing of two sort of philosophies, which is homegrown youth, let's sort of develop and build and grow our own stars, versus actually just going and buying them and bringing them together. So, but I mean, Brian White, you've got to stop him. He is lethal. He is absolutely lethal. I did want to ask you as well. I know you were waxing lyrical about Philadelphia's Ty Baribo, and he seems to have gone a little bit.
Well, he's faded out, and that's so. Yeah, the only reason I was waxing about him is because the numbers that he put up in the first 5 games were truly like above par. But if you don't maintain, or if you at least don't have any kind of consistency in that, obviously we're just going to have to move on to somebody else. And I don't know who that is yet, because I'm actually waiting on the latest. I've got waited on 5 games to run my analysis. Now I'm waiting on match week 9 to do my next batch of analysis. So I'm not sure who's the big leader there. I mean, I can tell you that for the USL, I know who the leaders are in the USL. Because there's been 6 games in the USL, so we're at least now at statistical relevance where we can begin to study patterns and what's going on there. Watch coming soon.
Moneyballing at Qooligan as well.
It's just, I mean, it's like, I mean, it's not that
data
bad,
analysis.
It's just it's analysis, right, and everything else. So but I think what I've noticed, at least certainly both in the USL and the MLS, is that teams that came out really strong have suddenly been tailing off. There have only been a small handful of clubs that have been able to start strong and maintain in both leagues. Vancouver's one of them, Loudoun in the USL, Monterey Bay in the USL. But really nobody else on the MLS side is truly standing out and being exceptional. Columbus Crew have yet to lose a game.
They're looking good, hey? They're really
Inter Miami have yet to lose a game, but both of them have 3 draws. So they're not unassailable. They're not impervious. They're just consistently just strong enough to avoid losing. And then there's, like a club like Minnesota United, who's flying under the radar. Nobody's talking about them, right? But yeah, they're sitting in second place, pretty solid. And I'm sorry, Gary, but San Diego lost. They
I know.
did drop one.
It's okay. It's okay. I mean, look, they're doing so well. They're still sitting in third place as well. And again, like to go and catch up to sort of Vancouver, I think as long as they sort of stay in the pocket, there, stay in the top four, it will be an overachievement.
Yeah. Will. I mean, remember, the top 8 make the playoffs. It's not hard. Okay.
I found on social media.
It's a pretty forgiving playoff scenario.
It is a forgiving league as well.
Yeah.
The chances of you getting to the playoffs are quite high, so it's going to be okay. However, there are teams that are probably not looking as prominent of getting to the playoffs, particularly LA Galaxy, again, having that Space Jam is happening over there as well. I know they got the draw, so they picked up a point.
Gary, what did I tell you? What did I tell you last week? I said they're going to end up drawing each other. They're so bad.
And a red card as well.
Drawing each other.
And a red card as well. Yeah. Space Jam is it's a Space Jam syndrome going on over there. The one player I know you are not a big fan of the San Jose Earthquakes. I know you have your reasons.
No.
However, I do want to just call out and just say that Christian Espinoza is lighting up the table and the statistics.
Yes, this is true. You're right. I'm not a fan of the Earthquakes, but that's more as an organizational thing, right? And it's nothing against the team and the actual play that they do, which they've been so much better. They've been so much better this year. They're actually fun to watch. Yeah, they've lost 4 games, but I mean, they have won the same number of games by week 8 that they won all last season. That's an improvement.
Yep. That is
and
true.
Espinoza was the best player on San Jose last year, which wasn't saying much because they didn't have a lot to show. But at least this time, he's still right. He's the maestro.
Delivering.
He's the guy who's pulling all the strings and trying to do all that. Yeah.
Yeah, he is delivering. And then I saw, obviously, Charlotte got a result against Montreal. That wasn't really a fair fight because Montreal
it wasn't. And Minnesota dropped the ball. They should have beaten Toronto, and they ended up doing a 0-0 draw. That's a bit of a letdown for them.
Yeah.
At least they didn't lose.
Now, the other interesting factor as well, what I'm also sort of been closely following as well, is the attendance. We keep talking about how sort of the game of the MLS is sort of rising and growing as well. And obviously one way to do that is obviously to look at the attendance, and it is continuing to grow. I know I sort of put a message about this into the team as well, internally as well, but Soldier Field, Chicago against Miami had the highest attendance of 62,358. Now, we know why that is. That is the Messi factor. Yeah. Everyone's coming there to see Messi. However, what is interesting is it's kind of a balloon, and there's a capacity, right? All of a sudden they're touching those, and then they'll have the capacity to get back there as well. If Chicago go on a little bit more of a run and have some more sort of, exciting games towards the end of the season as well, particularly sort of chasing the playoffs and the like, it's interesting that they do have the ability to pull in those big kind of crowds and pull in 60,000.
Well, they play at Soldier Field, right? So,
well, of course, they have the capacity, but
they have it.
They can have the stadium, but there are actually 62,358 people who would be prepared to spend time, give up their time, and go and sort of go and watch this and put money into it as well, right?
No, that doesn't actually surprise me that much. And the one thing that you talk about the Messi effect, and I think, and you think it's good, I don't. I'm actually not a huge fan of that type of boom bust. I don't like boom bust attendance.
That's the question. Does it go to the bust, or is this just a stepping stone as it sort of continues to sort of grow on the pathway of growth? TBD.
I could tell you if you give me a second, because I actually have their statistics. I have their attendance statistics going through all the way back. I just don't know if there's enough games to really make it. Let's just say that this one game became an anomaly. This is what we call in statistics an outlier.
It is an outlier.
An outlier event that boosted them up into what I'm calling an artificially high, threshold, as opposed to teams like Atlanta, who average 42,000 attendees a game.
Exactly. Yes, that's what we
phenomenal.
Want to check. That's the average that you're trending and tracking. Yes, exactly.
And Seattle, who averaged 30,000 a game, that's strong.
That is good. Yeah.
Most MLS and San Diego, averaging 31,000 per game. Now they're
That's
new,
amazing.
so there's a new factor
8 games
there.
in, but 8 games, yeah. And of course, there is a bit of hype and a bit of there's a sugar high and a sugar rush, and everyone gets excited.
of course.
And the problem
Right.
is if they started out and they were playing like absolute shit, their attendance would rapidly drop off quickly, right?
It might be. It might be. So so in that sense, but most clubs, right? Most clubs are doing fairly well on their attendance numbers. I have to go back and do some historical data, but yeah, they're sitting squarely in the 18,000 to 24,000 range every game, and that's decent.
That's
couple of outliers not doing so good, but yeah.
Okay.
Dallas, sorry, had to do it.
Well, that's okay. Okay, and then moving on, we've got the USL upcoming game week as well. I know we wanted to touch on that. I know we're bumping up against time here, so let's just, in terms of some of the USL picks. USL
I don't have any picks for next week. I haven't studied next week. There was just some last week. Fallout. The two worst teams in the USL actually won. That would be Oakland Roots. Hate to say it, but Oakland Roots and Miami FC. Shocking result from Miami FC, who have been very, very poor. Beating San Antonio, one of the strongest clubs in the USL. San Antonio now have 2 losses in a row. It's a real surprise. But I think in some cases it speaks to the parity of play within the league. It's not this is not a bad thing. And so you want the teams to be close. And so it is turning out to be that way. Interestingly, Birmingham Legion fired the only coach they've ever had. So they had one coach their entire time. They fired him, and Birmingham went on to win. So, hey, let's hear it for the coach, for the bounce. The bounce works, ladies and gentlemen. It's not just a Premier League thing.
Yeah. And they won against
big club thing.
Against, what a great name, El Paso Locomotive.
Yes,
as well.
Los Locos. Yeah, they're called Los Locos for those who are in the know. They have some of the most. They've got some funky uniforms. They're fun to watch. They're their announcer, the guy who does their announcing. He's fantastic. So good.
Fantastic.
Classic announcer voice. But yeah, Monterey Bay managed to win again. Orange County upset Sac Republic. Detroit City had that massive last minute win. No, there were good games. Some really strong stuff. And I'm looking forward to the next week when I get a little bit more stats in and I can tell you more about it. What's happening in the trends.
Wonderful. Well, Qooligan, as always, there is no shortage of narratives, storylines, soccer going on around the world. It is beautiful. It's fantastic. We've got a whole bunch of other stuff coming up as well as we get to the business end of the season. And then there's the big one in the summer. We'll be talking a little bit more about that. We're going to be standing up another dedicated podcast for the FIFA Club World Cup. So there'll be more information about that coming down. And again, as always,
Mamelodi Sundowners, ladies and gentlemen. My dark horse pick.
Oh my God, here we go. Yeah, suddenly you've just picked up a new fan in the Qooligan, right? If you have managed to stay with us all this way to 48 minutes through listening to us talking about the beautiful game, again, please reach out to us all across all the socials,
love to hear from
email. Love to hear from you as well. Yep. Subscribe, share, all those wonderful things. So Qooligan, until then, we'll be back obviously the back end of the week with obviously reviewing all the games coming up on the weekend. But until then, speak to you later. Thank you.
Peace.